This is Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
And in terms of how the Blues have caught fire, 19-2-2 over the last 23 games, how much of that is the outstanding coaching of Jim Montgomery and his staff?
You should spread that. Okay? For me, it's the leaders and the minute crunchers on our team. Everyone has fallen into place. Like the Faxa line as a fourth line was playing great hockey, even when we were not winning. They just kept doing their job, and everybody else has fallen into place. The emergence of guys like Holloway and Broberg and then Bolduc, it's just added layers to our depth.
I was head coach of the St. Louis Blues, Jim Montgomery, on how they turned their season around and are in the midst still of this 12-game winning streak. Cam Poitras, Jim Toth with you here. Jim, how you doing?
Happy Monday. I'm doing well. I'm excited for a big game, a big week in the National Hockey League, and a big day on Jets at Noon.
Yes, absolutely. Jets at Noon brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line and will win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method. 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later on in the program, which is coming at you live for the first time from the Boston Pizza Studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza. Thank you very much to Boston Pizza, our new sponsor here.
Super excited for
very
this.
exciting. So
nothing better than a Great White North.
So I said I'm not
a Boston Brute and a schooner.
I said I don't care about the sponsorship. I said you're going to feed Jim and I on Wednesday.
Schooners too.
They're going to be bringing us lunch. So I appreciate that.
I basically fed myself through college on schooners. That's how I survived.
Been there
watching playoff hockey. There was a tradition for us in communication arts. Go to BP's, Monday schooners,
cactus cuts.
And Tuesday was like, who won the game? We have no idea. I can't remember.
Still a huge fan of the lounge there. But anyways, thank you very much to Boston Pizza. I'm excited to have our guest on now to talk about the Jets and Blues tonight because when Lou Korac, Jets Blues writer and reporter, joined us last time, it was pretty early on in Jim Montgomery's tenure with the St. Louis Blues. And I'm interested to see how things have changed. Hey, Lou, how are you?
I'm good, guys. How are you?
Good, Lou.
Great.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for coming back. So did you hear Montgomery's quote there to lead off the show about how the Blues, it's the depth, it's the minute crunchers that have got them to where they are now in the first wild card spot? Do you agree with Jim Montgomery?
Yeah, I mean it's been a little bit of everybody. I mean that's kind of what's been the formula here. He's relying on all four lines, all three D pairs. I mean, you hear it; it's cliche stuff. You get the good goaltending. They've gotten good goaltending from both Jordan Binnington and Joel Hofer, who looks like Joel Hofer's going to get the pipe tonight back in his hometown. But yeah, it's been everybody, and I'll tell you, perfect example of it. I'm watching the game against the Colorado Avalanche on Saturday, and it's late in the game, and there's Radek Faksa, Alexei Toropchenko, and Nathan Walker on the ice trying to protect a 4-3 lead at the time, and there's 2-3 minutes left in the game. It kind of goes to show you just the kind of trust that he has in situational play of who he wants to have on the ice, and he trusts those guys to get the job done defensively. They were able to close the game out and set the franchise record with 12 straight wins now, and these guys are all playing confident hockey right now, and when the confidence bleeds down from the coaching staff, it filters throughout the lineup, and that's what we're seeing right now.
So along those lines, Lou, and you'd appreciate this, and maybe you don't, but in 2019, it's kind of similar. The Blues weren't dead last this year, but they did make a coaching change, and then I want to focus on, I think last time we had you on, you mentioned that the Blues had a sort of during the Four Nations Cup break, the Blues coaching staff sort of sat down under Montgomery and said, let's go to town on this team and figure out what we can do. How much did that break play into their success compared to what you saw prior to the Four Nations Cup?
100%. I mean, it was almost like, the only ones you were missing out of that were Colton Parayko and Jordan Binnington, who were obviously representing Canada at the Four Nations. But they basically it was like a little mini training camp, and they basically sat down and looked at the roster and said, here's what we got. Let's figure out what accentuates the best traits and strengths of these guys, and let's implement it on the ice. And that's sort of what they really worked on. And did anybody expect Parayko to get hurt? No. I mean, nobody expects any of your top guys to get injured. And right now, Dylan Holloway's out of the lineup, and it's a shame considering the great year that he's had. But look how they haven't missed a beat with 23, 24 minutes average per night out of your lineup in Colton Parayko. I don't know many teams that could survive that, but that's just it. You're taking Nick Leddy and saying, let's put you in this situation and see what you can do. We're taking that fourth line and saying, let's put you guys in these situations and let's see what you can do. They're taking Oscar Sundqvist and going, we're going to give you young guy, some young speed like Zach Bolduc and a veteran guy with some speed like Matthew Joseph. We're going to create a third line there and have you guys buzzing around it was just little things like that. And everything just sort of kind of fell into place. And, once, they lost the game coming out of the break against Winnipeg. They lost that game in a shootout and actually had the lead in the final minute before the Jets tied it and eventually won it. And coming out of that game, all I could hear was they appreciated the efforts and the way they played in a loss compared to the last game before going into the Four Nations break, which was a 6-5, just a pond hockey game that went to a 10-round shootout against the Chicago Blackhawks. Nobody came out of that game feeling good about the way they won, but they felt good about the way they played in a shootout loss. So they just started kind of building upon that, and then the next night they played against Colorado, won that game, and it's just been sort of progressive little steps is what it's been. And those progressive little steps have turned into quite a mountain here right now, and that's where they're at. They're standing on top of the mountain, as confident as ever, and they just want to keep this thing going right now.
It's the exact mindset you want to have heading into the postseason. It's exactly how you want to feel.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of how they went into it in 2019, and I've been getting asked this a lot. Do you see a lot of similarities between this team and 2019? And I could say yes in the manner of which they've won some of these games. They put a streak together, but really they're different teams to me because 2019, that team was expected to be good. Doug Armstrong went out and got Ryan O'Reilly, went out and brought David Perron back. You bring in a Tyler Bozak. You bring in the hometown hero, Pat Maroon. I mean, he brought in veteran players at the start of the year, and that team was expected to be good. And then when they stunk it up early in the year, and like you guys had mentioned already, they were in last place. When the calendar turned to January, they were talking about stripping the gears of that team because of the disappointment. This team is more or less. We've got a lot of young guys. We're trying to, filter in with some of the veterans. Let's see how it blends together. Is there potential to make the playoffs? Yes, but if we don't, we're not going to be completely disappointed as long as we take steps in the right direction. So a lot of it, they're different contrasts here, but the way they've been going about it is probably the best way I can say compare the two teams. Obviously, that team won the Stanley Cup, and this, we got a long ways to go before we decide that. But to me, that's basically the only similarity to me is just the style. I mean, both teams set franchise records. Other than that, they've gone about things completely differently.
Hey, Lou, how much does that have to play in with Brayden Schenn staying? There was a report here in Canada that he turned down a trade to the Leafs. Everybody here in Winnipeg and Manitoba thought that once Luke came that they would try to acquire Brayden to play the second-line center. I don't know if those doors were knocked or not. But the idea that I heard he stayed because the guys wanted him to stay and they thought they could do exactly what they were doing. That seems great now, but if that was the case back then, that's some faith in each other, is it not? And is that true that he sort of wanted to stay around because the guys in the room felt that they could make this push?
Well, I can't speak for that. Now, as far as the players are concerned, that's how they have felt. But I can tell you this. I've known Brayden Schenn since he's been here, and I had one conversation with him about this, and this was when all the names and the rumors had kind of started. And at the time, obviously things could have changed because I just had the one conversation with him, and I told him, I said, listen, I'm not going to keep bugging you about this every day, because you're here to focus on playing hockey. And the one conversation we had, he didn't know where it was coming from, and at that time, he wasn't approached about anything. Now, that obviously could have changed, and I keep telling everybody, Doug Armstrong would be crazy to not, go through his due diligence and see, what the offers are out there for him. But I can tell you at the time what he had told me was he loves it in St. Louis. Started his family here in St. Louis. He's mentioned it time and time again. It was the greatest thing that happened to his hockey career was getting traded here. So he's deeply rooted here in St. Louis. And the final thing he did tell me was, I do have a full no trade. And he just kind of smiled at me. And so that told me right then and there that if something were to get approached to him about, that he was going to say no. I just didn't feel like that he was going to move. Now, from a Blues perspective, if there was something out there that they felt like they couldn't turn down, they'd be crazy not to go to him. And I think it's one of those where Doug Armstrong's got enough respect for his captain to ask and not pretty much say, hey, we want to send you here, as opposed to probably going, would you look at the situation that we're in? Would you like to go somewhere and have a chance to win? Now, nobody saw, a 12-game winning streak that they're on and 18-2-2 since the Four Nations break. I mean, that's what it's taken for them to be in the position that they're in right now. I mean, if you look at the current pace that they're on if you look at this, encompass this over a full season, they're on a 143-point pace. Now, think about how crazy that is. It's taken this for them to be in the position that they're in. They've accomplished it, but I just think that was the scenario that played out there. And if Doug Armstrong did, and I can't confirm it whether he did or not, if he has Brayden Schenn, would he like to move? I emphatically feel like that Brayden Schenn said, look, I'm not going to go anywhere. I believe in this group. I want to stay here. I signed here long-term for a reason, and I want to see this thing through. And here they are where they are right now, and you've got to give him full marks for believing in his own team and for the guys sticking together the way they have.
That's why you're the best. Lou Korac, Blues writer and reporter. Lou, thanks so much. Appreciate your time. Really do. Thanks so much. Take care.
Okay, guys. Take care.
Yeah, have a good one.
Lou,
enjoy
the best.
Enjoy the game tonight. 204-780-68.
He's always good. He's
a sweetheart. Let's take a break. Let's come back. Pre-game gets going at 4. Puck drop after 6:30. It's a prime game, everybody. But hey, the game is always here on 680 CJOB. Getting some text messages about Ovi, what we think about the scoring record, and as a rank him higher, then we get it. We don't have any time. We got to talk the Utah game over the weekend. We got to talk this massive game against the Blues, but we got into it. Go to the podcast, download it. Jets at noon, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Exclusive Jets talk and content only found there. Take Jets at noon wherever you go. We talk about Ovi extensively and him setting a new all-time goals record. You can find it there. We will be right back. Somebody asked as well, I think it was Linda, is Ehlers back tonight? We'll answer that question when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
Jets at noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
What category would Nikolai Ehlers
Game
fall?
time.
Okay.
Game time. He just, obviously, the comfort level with that, got out there and got to skate, which was great. So we'll just see how he is this afternoon and take it from there.
And Neil Pionk, with a couple of practices before Dallas Thursday, is he starting to get on that periphery?
He's real close, yeah. It's all about conditioning now for him.
It's head coach Scott Arniel. Colin Miller sick today. He's a game time decision. We'll wait and see if he was in there. He was not in the morning skate. And Arniel also updated Velarde. He's up and around. The Jets will see him get on the ice soon. He adds that Rasmus Kapardi also skated full bore this morning after going back into concussion protocol. So on the injury front, right now things are improving. Pionk was paired with Heinola on the on a fourth pairing, and Ehlers did skate with the second line with Nemestikov and Perfetti. So things improving in the injury front for the Winnipeg Jets. Knock on wood.
Number one
heading
text
towards the
so
playoffs.
far today is what's with Nick Ehlers is he going to go? Everybody's asking about Ehlers.
Yeah, so we're going to wait.
Game time decision. I think he goes.
Oh, he's going.
I think he goes.
Oh, I think he goes too. Hey, we'll be right back. Luke Schenn had an awesome quote after the morning skate today about playing with his brother. It's great stuff. I'll play that for you after this. And I got an email from Malcolm midway through the game against Utah. Malcolm, I'll get you on the air here. We'll be right back.
It'll be all right, Malcolm.
Goal perspective, is this the kind of a week that you want as you get ready for the playoffs, and specifically these first two games against St. Louis and then in Dallas Thursday?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it's good to be playing top teams and meaningful games, with a lot on the line right before the playoffs. Obviously we've had a great season and been, kind of comfortably inside the playoff lines all year, but we're pushing to finish off a great regular season here and get our game ready to go for the playoffs. So I think it's important and good that we're playing these top teams right now, and we want to be at our best.
That's Josh Morrissey, defenseman for the Winnipeg Jets. On the final week, Kelly Moore asked him, is this the best way to head into the postseason, playing St. Louis and then huge game against Dallas coming up on Thursday? Jim, I'll ask you the same question.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that if they can get to Anaheim on Wednesday, April 16th, and maybe play Heinola for a game, maybe bring in somebody else, whoever's banged up gets a brief night off. Anybody chasing records and all that doesn't. But I think this is the best way for them. And not struggling to get in, Cam. Not like fighting for a playoff spot and stuff. Because then you're just desperate all the time. And when you're desperate and you manage to lose a game, it's the end of the world. I think this is a great way for them to go into the playoffs. There's 5 games left. They got a big one tonight. They got another huge one on Thursday in Dallas. Say you get 3 or 4, you get all 4 points, or maybe you get 2 of the 4. And then you got. It's just a great way to be around honing your game. And the other thing I'll say, Cam, that I was talking with Macklin about this last week, and I didn't know whether to bring it up now or at playoff time. The really good teams that are in and around the Jets have played a ton more hockey. The McDavids, the Dreisaitl's went to Game 7 last night, and they're breaking down and trying to get back and where they expected it for injury. Vegas has played a ton of hockey the last couple of years. The Avalanche has played a ton of hockey the past couple of years. Stanley Cup champion, Western Conference Finals, second rounds. Nobody wants to hear this, but if this Jets team has a slight advantage, it's they have not played a lot of hockey come postseason time. Now, no one wants to hear that, but if you can get Pionk and Velarde back by the first round and are healthy, and you haven't gone past this first round for the past couple of years, I think it gives you an advantage against the Dallases, the Colorados, not in the first round, but by the time you get to the second and third, they haven't played a ton of heavy hockey in the playoffs the last couple of years because they've been bounced. And that might help them against the teams that have. It's an interesting thought. Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. The VIP text on the text line will win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. Your ticket to Romance, we'll announce the winner later in the program. 2 tickets to Romance. Well, 1 pass, but 2 seats. Yeah, that's right. Well, maybe even 4. 4 tickets to Romance if you got a 4-seater, which, of course, is coming at you live right here from the Boston Pizza Studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the whole team to Boston Pizza. Let's talk. We'll do Luke Schenn in just a second here, but I want to, in his great clip talking about his brother Brayden, of course, captain of the St. Louis Blues. They're going to be battling tonight at Canada Life Center. They've played it against each other a bunch of times. It's exactly what Luke talks about, and I want to make sure I play that audio for you. But I got this email. It was mid-game against Utah, and I'll read my response verbatim. I'm not hiding anything either here. So Malcolm sent me an email. You can send me an email anytime at cam@cjob.com, cam@cjob.com. Malcolm, Jets Stanley Cup contenders, definitely not. They might win their division, but that's it. First round exit again. They don't have the attitude and the will to win in the playoffs. Embarrassed twice by Utah of all teams. Stanley needs to go. He is terrible. For a player his size, he does not hit anybody, and come the playoffs, the Jets will get knocked around, and that will slow them up. Okay? Logan Stanley, we beat it to death. So what was wrong with Stanley on Saturday? I didn't like he didn't make a good block on the first goal in the power play against Utah, but I'm not gonna rope the entire loss on him. That first period was the entire team. The first period was the entire team. Yeah. It was everybody out there. Maybe not Connor Hellebuck, but he wasn't on the ice for the goals against. Yeah, but Stanley was on the bench. So I said to Malcolm, thanks for the email, Malcolm. They're playing much better here in the third period as I'm watching. But we're brutal in the first period and most of the second. But Malcolm, a couple of bad games don't erase a team in first place in the entire NHL. Look what happened in Vegas just on Thursday. Will they get bounced in the first round? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I knew. I'd be filthy stinking rich. Anything can happen in the playoffs, but don't give up. As Gandalf says, there never was much hope, only a fool's hope. So that was the email I sent back to
sent back to Malcolm. So, and that's how I feel, right? There's this idea that the Jets have to be almost perfect at this time of year, Jim, right? Because if they're not perfect in the regular season late like this, well, then they're not going to be perfect in the playoffs, and there's going to be panic, right? But here's the big report. Here's the news flash coming down. The Jets are not going to be perfect in the playoffs. It's a roller coaster ride. There's going to be ups and downs. If they play like they did in the first period against Utah, they're going to lose more games in the playoffs than they win, and they will not go far. They have to get that out of their game. They have to start strong. They can't play like they played against Utah. And they rectified it as the game went on, but it was too little too late. They dominated in the third period, but that's something they still have to fix. Every team has things they have to fix. Yeah. Dallas lost to Pittsburgh.
So here's an even text.
And they lost to Minnesota in overtime, too.
From Gary. Completely disagree, Jim. The Jets' lack of playoff experience will hurt them. The amount of games played last year should have no bearing on a pro athlete's performance this year. Well, I'm sorry, Gary. It does. When you play a ton of hockey like that, ask the Tampa Bay Lightning, who went to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, and how they got worked in the Stanley Cup final. It is a ton of hockey.
Tampa ran out of gas.
Against Colorado. I will go, like, Colorado is a deserving Stanley Cup winner. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying, but Tampa looked like a different team by the finals. And I'm sorry, to this idea that you're a pro athlete and blah, 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 there's wear and tear on this. There is a ton of, physicality to this. And you go to Game 7 of Stanley Cup finals, or you go to back-to-back Stanley Cup finals, look at the record in the third and fourth year. It's just tough. It's a lot of hockey to be played. Now, going back to this, there's a lot of people that looked at that Utah game, and I get it, right? And I'm on record. That is a disappointing, no other way to cut it, disappointing effort in the first period against Utah with what was at stake. Yeah. You knew Dallas lost. You were in Utah where your season was your worst game of the year. You said it. Your coach said it. You had a chance to come out of the gate and put your foot down and do something, and you didn't. And that's disappointing. You let yourselves down and you let the fans down. There's no sugarcoating that.
I agree with that 100%.
But that doesn't change anything. Like, I'm sorry, we sit here and we look at that and we go, oh, we're not even in the playoffs anymore, and people are mad and firing off emails and stuff like that. Yeah, you are. You beat Washington twice, so you think you win the Stanley Cup? I don't get the fever around yet a bad 30 minutes against a bad team, and they're not a bad team.
No, Utah is not bad.
They're not a bad team.
No, they're not. Absolutely
but let's say they're bad. You have a bad 30 minutes against a bad team, and that dictates the rest of your season, but you beat the other team that's fighting for first overall twice, and that doesn't dictate the rest of your season. I don't get the philosophy of it.
Yeah.
I don't overread wins against Washington and a shutout in Vegas. I don't overread those, and I don't overread the loss in LA, and I don't overread the loss in Utah, because I saw what happened. Absolute domination against Washington twice and Vegas. Then you didn't go to the net. You didn't play your game. You didn't take care of the puck, and you got beat in LA. It's right there. You don't have to overread these lines and go, well, that season's over now because of that. If they played like they played against Washington in LA and got shut out 3-0, then I could see you going, I don't know about this team. Mm-hmm. But they didn't play well. They didn't play well for 30 minutes. How did they like the last 30 minutes against Utah? How did you like that? I thought it looked very good, and they were all over them. Shot attempts in the third period were 33-12 for the Jets in the third period. So I don't overread. I don't underread. It is what it is. They had a bad start. They let themselves down, and it was extremely disappointing with what was at stake. So was LA. And then you come back 2 days later and shut out Vegas, and you're like, do you think they're winning the Stanley Cup now because they beat Vegas that way? No. So why do you look at these losses and go, it's all over?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't see it that way. I'm sorry.
No, you gotta ride the waves.
I look at the majority and the larger sample size, and the larger sample size is dominant wins over very, very good teams and 52 wins.
Yeah, that's it to me. The large sample size is that this team won 52
winning
games
goalie,
so far.
One of the highest scoring top lines. Now there's warts. The power play's struggling. They got to get that going, and they need to get healthy. I think Iafallo and Appleton have done a yeoman's work moving up and providing points in some games, but that's not sustainable. They need Velarde back. They need Pionk. They need to get the power play going. But nothing's over just because they had a bad 30 minutes with a chance to go up on Dallas by 2 points.
Yeah. I wonder, is there something psychological about that?
It's the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's the lack of playoff success.
No, well, I agree with, but going into a game like that, it's Dallas loses.
You mean the Jets? I thought you meant the fans. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely the lack of playoff success, but I think it's a little bit of Winnipeg.
Well, look,
sort of
and this is why I say I don't look at the LA game and go, "Oh, woe is me." I don't look at that Buffalo loss and go, "Oh, woe is me." I go to the next game and go, "How do they come back?" Because historically, what I've seen, this is a team that struggles with that, but I haven't seen that this year. How do they historically bounce back after poor efforts? Do they have another one? And then do they have a third game in a row where they're like, we got to start finding our game here? I'm getting worried. No, they come back and they shut out Vegas 4-0 in Vegas, a team they haven't beaten 8 regular season games. That's how they bounce back. They lose to Buffalo at home after doing to Buffalo what they did the second half of the Utah game, and they lose. And they're starting a 4-game homestand, and Washington's coming, and what happens? They beat them. That's what I read into this team. How do they respond? How do they come back? They lose game 1 of the playoffs. Am I going, this is over? No, I'm going, game 2 is fascinating to me because historically this year, they've played their best hockey after that.
Call the Boston Pizza Jets at noon. Hotline open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Come in for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main side and ice cold drink for only $15 only at BP. Here's a great quote from Luke Schenn. And the brothers dynamic it's always interesting when they play up against each other, right?
Yes.
The Tanevs, Chris and Brandon. The Schenns have been around a long time.
The fabulous Flying Schenn brothers.
And I'll preface this quote from Luke about any memorable stories, any memorable moments. Have they ever come up when you've played your brother Brayden?
There's a couple ones. I mean, a couple not too proud of it. We tell this story. Well, he got back a couple years ago. I was playing in Vancouver, and obviously he was with St. Louis. I was in the penalty kill. He was on the power play, and he just come back from having some broken ribs, and I was in the corner and wasn't really thinking, and gave him a little whack right above the pants, and ended up stinging him again and getting him pretty good. And I was after the game, I was waiting for him, to come outside the dressing room, and they were going on a back-to-back to Calgary, and he wasn't coming out, and I asked the trainer where he was, and he was getting another x-ray, and it was all my fault. But my dad called me after the game, and he said, what the hell were you thinking? And I said I wasn't. So that's pretty much that's the one that, like I said, you're not going out there, you're trying to compete. Obviously he's a forward, I'm a defenseman. You got to be hard on each other, but you never want to obviously injure your brother.
That's hilarious. Like it's the phone call from the dad. He's like, I'm giving him heck. And I don't think he said hell. I think he probably said another word there.
The only thing that's different
Good old Saskatoon boys
than any brothers, or especially me and my own brother, the only thing that's different is when his dad called and said, what were you thinking? He said, I wasn't. I would have been like, well, Dad, he gave me one of these. Like, I would have just gone with it. I would not have accepted that I actually did a bad thing. I would have fought it to the end and gone, well, he pushed me.
Yeah.
But the idea maybe that he said, what were you thinking? I wasn't.
Maybe if you would go back 20 years, that's what they would have gotten.
And it's
the maturity, it's supposed Stanley Cup winners.
And go back 30 years when that sounded right there, that clip to me like a mini six game in the basement.
Yeah.
They want to hurt each other. They want to sort of rub each other out and punish, but they don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
They want to punish them and make them feel it, but I didn't mean to do that. That sounds like a mini stick game, right? Yeah. But in the National Hockey League.
You're hurting your brother. Yeah. He's got to worry about the other 22 guys on the ice.
You know how many times I go downstairs and can you two stop beating the wheels off each other, please? Well, he shoved me.
He started it.
But that was me and my brother, right? Yeah. And that was, all my friends' brothers and stuff. Yeah, so I just, that's a hilarious clip. The only difference is I don't know a lot of brothers that would just own it right away on the phone call. But
yeah, that's funny. Let's take a break. Let's come back. On the other side, the Winnipeg Jets agreeing to terms with an exciting entry-level deal.
Business getting done. Chevy must be bored right now.
With a guy from Sudbury Wolves. And this guy's kind of come out of nowhere. Is kind of
It's a good story.
come on to the national stage. We'll discuss that, and hey, we'll give away the Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road VIP text, and we'll squeeze in some of your guys' text messages as well. We'll be right back.
And Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Well, the Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road VIP text came from Linda. She asked earlier on the show, hey guys, is Ehlers back tonight? Game time decision, Linda. Game time decision.
Game time.
But that text, enough to win you a car wash and a ticket to love from our good friends at Wash Method.
Romance.
Love.
And love.
Oh, both.
Okay.
Yeah. You can have both. Love and romance can,
you
can live
definitely.
together.
Yes. I don't mind promising romance. I just don't like to promise love.
I get it.
Yeah.
I see what you're
We
saying.
can deliver you to the romance. The love is up to you two once you get to Wash Method.
The Winnipeg Jets Hockey Club announced that they have agreed to terms with forward Kieran Walton on a 3-year entry-level deal beginning next season. He will join the Manitoba Moose for the remainder of the season on amateur tryout agreement. He was a 6th-round pick last draft. He's 6'6", 216 pounds. He's a left shot, can play wing. Kaz played center at times. 18 years old. He had this season 38 goals and 92 points in 66 games with the OHL Sudbury Wolves. And they got quickly bounced out of the playoffs in the OHL, but a real good 6th-round pickup. Like, you never know where these guys are going to go.
Yeah.
But this is a guy that could be a diamond in the rough down there.
It looks like it. And good for him and good for the Jets for getting it done. Mike McIntyre, Free Press, was on my show Friday. He went to Brandon and talked to Brayden Yager. Great piece in the Free Press if you want to read it. He talks about how he has conversations with Scheifele and Morrissey and Lowry. But it's pretty clear the Jets are going to put him at center. So second-line center, if you're wondering, it looks like...
maybe that's
according
why...
to Mike McIntyre's conversation, read it in the Free Press, he's destined to be center.
Lambert, they moved him to the wing. They moved Lambert to the wing with the Moose, so maybe that's what's going on there. You missed your chance to get your thoughts on the show today. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Coming for lunch every weekday to Boston Pizza. Get a delicious main side and ice cold drink for only $15 only at BP. Pre-game gets going at 4. Puck drop after 6:30. Jets trying to end the Blues' 12-game winning streak. Jim Toth will take you all the way till 2 o'clock. See ya.